All right, welcome back to another session of Learn to Create 3D Games for the Absolute Beginner. And of course, we're using the Unity toolset and platform. What we discussed on our last stream was how we can make our master inventory management system scalable and reusable. And we made some of the changes that we needed to allow additional inventory items to be added easily to our prefab folder under our resources folder. And anyways, it made it real easy to reuse the code and drop in a new prefab. Now, on this next stream that we're doing right now, we want to take that one step further. And let me show you what we have in store for this session. We started building these line items that were adding the items from our master inventory resources folder. It was just a simple line. We got it where it was real easy to add a new item to the master inventory database. It's used at runtime to randomly draw items from and spawn into our designated spawn locations. So what we want to finish on this session is replacing this type setup where instead of having to add a new line for each new unique inventory item we add, we want to be able to pull that information directly from, we actually want to pull it from the resources folder automatically. So if we drop some files in, we can just have it build a list of those prefabs and have them in memory. So there's a couple of things that we can do there. Let's see. Let me just go back to something I found that may be useful in getting this done. I did a search, a Google search, on how to store all the prefabs within an asset folder in an array, and I came up with this simple thing here. It's just a simple, we're currently using the resources.load function, but if you use resources.load all, and you give it the folder, and then your second parameter is the type of object it's going to load, which in this case would be a game object. It will actually load all those prefabs into an array for you. So that's very simple, and that may be something we can use. Alright, so let's take a look. Let's really think this through. I suspected that we might not be able to do this the way I would love to, because we had these values that we needed to apply. Even if we were able to load all the asset files from our prefabs folder, we still have to assign all these values to those items. And so there's no true way to automate all that, since each one is going to be hand tweaked more or less with some values that we're going to define in, for the use in our program. So I think for now we might just go ahead and put a hold on doing that the way I wanted to. Let's take a look at the one idea I thought we could do. See, I created a, let's go back to Unity. Let me show you what I did for the ammo box. You see when I click on baseball bat, there's no script down here. But ammo box, we've got this script component. And I thought, maybe we could add a script to the object and then you would have these fields that would show up here that you could directly modify the attributes for that item. And so we could do that. Basically, on each item we have to attach that script, but there's still going to be some manual process. Even if we were to read all these assets in here, we need to go ahead and get this stuff set first. So I don't think there's like any easy way to do this. But I did feel that we could reuse the script, and so we're going to take that a step further here. Let's copy the code from our ammo box attributes. Copy. And let's create a new script. And we'll put this in our scripts folder here. Create a new C# script. And we want to call this, we're going to make it a generic attribute. So we'll call it I guess we can call it inventory item attributes. Let's make sure I spelled that right. Inventory item attributes. Okay. So we have that. Let's go ahead and open that up. So it's taking its time. Okay, there it is. It apparently was doing something stupid. Let's paste that in there. Okay, so now we have that. We have that inventory item attributes, very generic. And we'll probably will not use the ammo box. We're going to replace that with this other one. So let's go back to our resources folder. We got our prefabs, master inventory. So let's go here. And we will, let's just make another of these values. Categories, ammo, 100, check, 100, use value 100. Okay, so we're going to remove this component. And let's see if we can add it to all of them at once. I think we can. Add a component. Go to scripts. Inventory item attributes. Boom. It's all done. Just like that. So if we select that one, yep. So let's set up the category. We said that we're going to have a few categories that are defined. And let's go back before we even jump in and do that. I forgot. We're going to need to change this from an enumeration to an array, actually. String. Inventory categories equals. We need to update this to we're going to add one more. We talked about, if we're adding attachments to our guns, we want to have another category called attachments. I think I actually have consumable spelled wrong. Is it consumable like that? Okay. Anyway, so we got our category set up. We're going to have to change some of this here. Matter of fact, we probably let's just comment this out right now, because we're going to replace this code here with some other code that'll read the inspector values that we're setting and gather that from the script and see if we can get those values. So we'll come back to that. Let's go ahead and set our values just to see if we can in fact read them. Alright, so this one is going to be ammo. Action value was 100. This is the ammo box. It's stackable, reusable. That'll be 100. And the use value is for the multi-use or reusable property. We need to set that to 100. That's what that tracks. The action value, this is how many bullets come in an ammo box. And this is going to be used as a counter for this particular item to track how many bullets are left in the box. So this will always stay 100, but this can get reduced as the bullets are used. Okay, so now we have a baseball bat. It's going to be considered a weapon. We'll just say it does 15 damage. It's not stackable. It's not multi-use. So that's really not going to matter. This is a consumable. Say it gives you 25% increase in hunger, thirst, and then is it stackable? Yes. Multi-use? No. 0. Alright, so category. First aid, also consumable. Action value. It's going to give a first aid kit. Be a 50% increase in health points. It is stackable. Is it multi-use or not? We're not going to really track probably. Like if you're at 80% and you use one, well, you just use it. You go to 100% health, but you've only used 20% of something that would have given you a 50 boost. So we're not going to check those. Okay, mag. That's going to be considered an ammo. Or really we could classify it as an attachment to a gun, the magazine. So let's do that. Let's call it attachment. Action value, that's the number of bullets that can actually be held in this mag or clip. Stackable, no. Multi-use, I don't know. Like I said, the matter. Gun. Category weapon. And so essentially what we have is a script that can be attached to any item you want to add to the master inventory. You just go in and define some values for it and make sure you categorize it correctly. And our back-end inventory management system we're building will allow us to, number one, it will automatically load these assets for you and build the master inventory database in memory when the game starts, and it will and we're going to build functionality that will allow us to randomly spawn. Well, that's already there. The ability to randomly spawn any one of these items in a spawn location. No matter what spawn or if we replace new spawns, they automatically will get one of these items spawned in them. The modification we want to make, though, is the ability to indicate that we want to spawn just certain items by category. So that'll be the next change. So we're not going to really get into probability. Is it 50% chance or whatever? We're just going by using a basic random function, random.range, that's built into one of the Unity libraries, and we're just using that to generate a randomness. So it's all based on, hopefully, you roll the dice a certain number of times. It's an equal amount of opportunity to get any one of these items. All right, so this is the pistol action value. We're going to use the action value for a pistol to indicate how much damage each bullet does. So we're going to say 18 is the damage out of 100. So it would take 6 shots to kill somebody, basically. Is it stackable? No. Multi-use, use value. None of that's going to be used. Okay, silencer. Category. It's an attachment. Action value. Okay, now in this case, silencer, the value here is going to indicate the percentage of bullet noise reduction. We're going to do it does 75% reduction. Whatever we set our normal sound to for a bullet when it's shot, if a silencer is attached to the gun, this is the factor we'll use to reduce the audio by. Is a silencer stackable? No. Multi-use. Okay, so we have everything defined there. Let's go ahead and double check. Ammo, weapon, consumable. Actually, I almost want to make a modification and say we have primary weapons and secondary. So we can use that. Yeah, we probably need to do that. Let's make a quick change here. Primary weapon. Secondary weapon. In our game, we're just going to have something simple. You got a primary slot, which would be for a melee style. Would it be a knife, a bat, something like that? Then you have a secondary, which can be used. Pistol is the only gun we'll have right now, but eventually when we add other guns, your primary weapon could be a sniper, could be, other types, ARs, as we add them. Now you still be able to have multiple weapons and primary and secondary in your main backpack, but hello, Nino Station. Hey, buddy. I'm sorry, I just saw your chat. That's why I was scrolling Windows. I realized I didn't have my chat window up. I'm glad you stopped by, though. I appreciate it. I'm kind of new to Unity, but what I'm doing here, if you haven't seen any of the other videos I did, is, as I learn, I'm trying to explain how I'm doing certain things or how I, overcame it, so that, anyone else that's a beginner like myself can take a look at this stuff and get some ideas from it. So, Again, I'll answer any questions I can if you have some simple ones, but I'm definitely not the expert. I'll tell you that. But I'm working towards it. All right, so let's step back here. We've got our master inventory. We've got everything set. We were modifying. We added primary and secondary weapon. And so we'll make the baseball bat. I already had a tag for it, but I guess let's swap the terminology around then too. So it matches weapon. We'll prefix it as weapon, primary, weapon, secondary. I'd like to have everything matching, just because it makes it easier when I'm coding to not have to look things up and did I have it one way or the other. It's consistent across the board. Nino, how you doing tonight anyway? You like development. I do too, man. What kind of languages do you write in? Or are you a Unity user as well? Okay, so I'm setting the categories weapon secondary for the baseball bat. Pistol will be weapon primary. You have attachment for the silencer. Same with the clip. All right, let's make sure we had attachment. Let's take off the S there. All right, so now what we got to figure out now is how do we extract this information from these game objects we're dropping in our master inventory. We want to be able to extract this and populate our in-game master inventory file. So we need to get the prefab name along with the category, action value, stackable, setting, multi-use, and use value. We need to store all that in an array. If we can get that written, then we're going to have a really scalable system that will allow us to just drop in new items, add that script, which we've put together to have these public variables exposed in the inspector, and then we can set some simple values and be done with it. Wash our hands at that point, and we'll know it's in the system. So, and we'll develop the scripting later on to filter by category. We're going to do that hopefully in this session here. All right, so let's do this. Jump back to our scripting. So, like I said, I saw a quick line here. We can do resources.loadAll. That'll load all those prefabs out of that folder into an array. And then we can have that array, we can loop through them, get the prefab name, and then do a lookup in our game object hierarchy for that prefab name, which should give us what we need, or at least a starting point, and then we can extract out the scripting component that has our public variables exposed in the inspector and take the values out of that and populate that into an inventory item object in our script, in our inventory manager script, and then once we populate that, it'll just add it to the master inventory like we did with the others. So in my head, that's what I want to do. So let's get that done. So in order to do that, let's go Yeah, we've got to change this too. This is no longer an enumeration, it's a string. And so then let's also change inventory item. Yeah, we've got to change this to a string as well. And I may at a later time come back and put it back as an enumeration. Right now I don't really want to focus on that part of it, how to get that done in the inspector part. I know it's something probably fairly easy, but we'll come back to that. Let's just get the basic concept that I just laid out in code here and get it working. All right, so let's create another function called, we'll just call it load all I want to just call it prefab inventory. Okay, that's going to be our function name. Let's copy that. Now, it's got the red line because we haven't defined it yet. So let's go down here. And under our spawned items, let's do a void. And I probably should do something like return back something to indicate, you know, a status, like either the number of items it loaded that can be checked so that we don't actually do the spawn part. But since we have our master inventory file as a public variable, class level variable, it's available to all these functions, and so it's probably fine the way it is right now. If we need to change it later on, we'll do that. I'm just trying to keep it simple here so it's easy to follow and understand and initially code. All right, so basically the this is really what we need right here, something along that line. It's going to be a modification of that. And so we're going to do like what we're showing here, create a prefabs object array, load that in there, and now I'm assuming this is their folder, prefabs in the example. Ours is different. You tell it the type. It's a game object. So let's see if that works. So we could do the same thing, but see, we actually already have a well, I was going to say we could load it in here, but no, that's not going to work because we actually don't have the prefab itself stored in this list. So what we'll do is we'll create a private and we'll just call it prefabs. And so we'll use that name down here. That's our array name. Prefabs equals resources load all. And there's a couple of overrides here. If we look at the first one, we can do string path, which is great. That'll probably do what we need to do. Then we've got a second second one here. It's showing string path plus a system type. That system type of instance, basically the prefab type. So we can, I guess, I'm assuming what it would do is, if you had multiple asset types, it would only load the ones that match the instance type. And then what do we have on number 3? That's string path. So the one in the example actually that it used was this. So we're going to do the same thing. Let's give it our folder name. Comma. Game object, which is a Unity game object. That's what we're loading here. So it might complain. It's probably going to say, wait, predefined type system.value tuple 2 is not defined or imported. It's probably because I have an extra parenthesis here. Gave a quirky little. Game object is a type which is not valid in the given context. Maybe you can do that in JavaScript. The example was in JavaScript. This will find all game objects in the prefabs folder and print the amount of them in the console. So we might have to do it a slightly different way. See if it likes that. To be honest, we don't really have to define this as just a generic object. We can just make this game object. Just so there's no complaints from anything. Okay, so we're going to temporarily remove the spawned items. We don't want it to spawn anything yet. So we're going to load all prefab inventory, and then we're going to debug and write how many items we have so we can kind of check this as we go. Alright, so that's that. Don't tell me I did it again. Nope, we're good. Alright, so we're waiting for it to compile in the background. I don't have a really super fast computer, so it might just take a second here. Alright, so let's run this now. Let's see what we get. Alright, so let's look at our console here. Prefabs count 7. Okay, so it did load it. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 items. So we know it loaded correctly. Alright, so what we're essentially going to try to do, let's look at our add item, what actually add item is doing, because that's essentially what we're replacing here. Let's just copy one of these lines so we have it for reference. And this is an example here again. But essentially what we're wanting to do now is extract all this. We're going to go through a loop. We're going to say, first of all, let's check if the count is greater than 0, or we could just say just count. I mean, that probably would work as well. It's that length. I don't know what I was thinking. Count. Alright, so if the prefab's length is greater than 0, then what we're going to do now is set up a loop. And if you're not familiar with loops, I mean, you might want to research that, but it's pretty standard. I'm not really going to explain the loop part, but that loop there will make sure that we go through, reiterate through all the items in our prefabs array that we just generated from the resources that it loaded. And we're going to do something on each iteration. So now the next thing we're going to need to do is get the scriptable component. So let's see if okay, scriptable object, and let's just call it SO for scriptable object equals get prefabs okay, so we want to get component scriptable object. Now let me check here a minute. I think because we only have, if we had more than one script on these items, we might have to do something special with it, but I think let's double check. We only have, we just have that one script. If we were to ever add another script, though, I think on this, on each of these items, we could run into an issue here with just using the scriptable object, because it's going to get the first instance. But in this case, we're fine with what we're doing. Okay, so we want to, if SO, we want to check to make sure that we actually have a scriptable object. So if it's not equal to null, we'll do the next step, which is we want to go ahead and create a an inventory item, which is our class we set up, our item class we set up. Inventory item equals new inventory item. Well, no, I take that back. We don't have to do that. We're going to reuse the function we wrote to add item, and it does a lot of this. It'll do that for us internally and add it to our master inventory list. So we're going to add item. The first thing is the item name, which would be Let's see, prefabs. Oh wait, it's prefabs I. That's why it wasn't giving me what I needed. Name. That'll be our first. And then we're gonna extract from the scriptable object that was on that prefab. We're gonna extract the these values here that we're looking for, which is the category. So that'll be underscore prefabs I dot and see what that was called again. Maybe that's what I was thinking, is we may have to do something special to expose them. Let's look at our inventory item. Everything's public class. Oh, it's M underscore category. Maybe that's why it didn't show up right. Oops. Nope, still not. We got the name. Let's see. Is there another variation of this where we tell it maybe the script name? Maybe that's what it is. No, that's pretty much it. Oh, I'm using the wrong. My bad. It should be SO. And I don't know if that's going to work or not. Probably not. It's probably going to complain. I see it already. Cannot convert type unit to inventory item. So let me just Google search this real quick. Okay. How to get access to public bars in another Unity script. Okay, referencing non-static variables from another script. So yeah, that's what we want to do. Okay. I was doing the scriptable object thing. I need to put the exact name. Okay, so I can get rid of this. Actually, what I'll do is I'll copy this. like that. There we go. I guess I want to call this IA item, inventory item attributes. I guess we'll call it just item details. Something that means a little bit more. So okay, so the category, and then what are we on? The value, action value, dot. Okay, stackable, dot, multi-use, where's that? Dot. Yeah, if this works as I anticipate, this is going to be awesome because it will allow us to scale up. Not have to fool with the code for this, at least for loading our game assets, our prefabs, into somewhat a master array with some additional details. We can easily, as we add items, we can customize the values, but this would be a great way to pull them into the game. I guess what I could do really quick just to see if it's working without actually using it is debug log it. And so what we'll do is we'll do this, we'll do da 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 da. I don't know if you can do a /n like that in here or not. Let's try it. So name, category, we're going to add copy. That's going to be a plus. Next one is going to be action value. This here will be stackable. This will be reusable, which is the multi-use, same thing. And then we have, last but not least, the use value, the reuse value. Okay, so we'll basically debug all that out. Save that, run it. All right, so let's just go ahead and play on this. Again, we have our spawn items commented out, so it's not going to spawn anything right now. Let's check the console. Okay, so it's outputting the name, ammo box, name, baseball bat, name, bottle water, first aid mag, pistol, silencer, prefabs count 7. Okay, that didn't go as planned, actually. Make sure we clear that. Go back here. I don't know what that was, actually. JavaScript error. Okay, so what we have here is that slash name colon slash category. It didn't print any of that, so I don't know what happened. For whatever reason, my Discord was trying to load. Let me shut that down. Quit. All right, so what's going on here? What are we missing? You know the item details when it's getting it, it's coming back. It's not equal to null. So item details. Okay, let's try that again though. Let's just run it a second time. It's doing something strange. Did it like twice, which was kind of odd. Yeah, see, I'm not seeing. What's kind of odd is I'm not seeing, even if there's no values, still should be showing. Oh, I know what. I don't like that slash n. So what we're gonna do here, E, find and replace, quick replace. Slash n, replace it with, just replace with a vertical bar like that. Alright, so let's scroll. It's kind of odd. It must not like that vertical bar like that. So let's run that again just to make sure. It was kind of odd what it was doing there. I felt my code was right, but I mean, I do find mistakes. Alright, so we ran it. Turn it off. Check the console. There we go. That's what I was expecting to see. So it is pulling in some information here. We got name, ammo box, category, ammo, action value 100, stackable, true, reusable, true, reuse value 100. And yeah, so it is pulling in our values as we suspected. Why it's doing it twice, I'm not really quite sure why it's doing it twice. Alright, so let's go back to our script. So we can take this out. We do need to find out why it's doing it twice though. Let's check add item to make sure we're not... Let me get rid of that. Alright, so let's add back in our spawn items. That's the add item helper function that creates the inventory item and then just adds it there. But actually, making an extra call over here when the only thing, and it's recreating that based on values coming in. Tell you what we can do. Let's copy this code here. I'm going to shorten this even more. See, we already have the item details here. Instead of calling add item, I see what it's doing. It's adding the entire item. So we do need to create an object, the inventory item object anyway. So let's leave it the way it is. We'll just continue to use that. Okay, load all prefab inventory. So yeah, we replaced it then. This with this load all prefab inventory. And then we spawned items. Still don't know why it's doing it twice. What I will do though, just for now, say if this is really not it's equal to null, which means it hasn't been initialized, then go ahead and do this block of code. Check if prefab is empty, comma, if it is, load master inventory. Okay, so let's see if that's gonna work. I just don't want it to load twice. Let's clear that. I'm gonna run this. This time it should spawn our items. We'll see if we get some random items showing up. Yeah, so we do have our, of course I'm using a stock guy right now. This thing is so hard to control. Alright, so we do have our items. We've got 2 of the bottled waters, we got a clip there, ammo pack, another thing of whatever, bottled water. Alright, so that worked. Kind of worked as expected. Now let's see if we add, theoretically now, we shouldn't have to touch that code in order to add another inventory item in. Let's add one more. Let's go to the survival pack that we had, prefabs. The only one I didn't add in yet was this one right here, the Jerry. So let's just drop that in there. And I'm not sure about the scale. The scale might be too much. Let's leave it the way it is, so just for now. Okay, what we're going to want to do, so we don't have that script there, we're going to add a component. We're going to add our nifty little script that we put in here, which is our inventory item attributes. So anytime we add a new inventory item to our master, to our resource folder, we're going to add this script to it. So the category for the Jerry, again, I don't even know what this thing is, the Jerry. Is it a suitcase? Is it a mattress, a bed? Is it a gas tank? The Jerry. What the hell is a Jerry? I don't even know. That's sad. Let's look up. What is a Jerry can? That looks like a can. Yeah. Okay, that's for fuel. All right, so that's what that is. Okay. So I thought it looked like a fuel thing. Okay. Alright, so that is going to be in the category of a collectible for now. It's consumable, but by the vehicle. If we had a vehicles in here, we don't, but we'll put it in there anyway. Let's say it's going to refuel the tank 60%. Are they stackable? No. Multi-use? No. Use 5? We're not worried about that. Okay, so we've got our item in there. Everything's done with that. So now we should be able to just grab this item, do this, drop it in our master inventory file, bloop. There it is, the Jerry. Collectible with our script. Let's make sure we got our script name correct. Collectible. Which at this point, I don't even need this, but I'd like to change that where I'm typing in the category where we have a pick list to use. And so I'll have to figure out exactly what the control name is for that. Instead of defining it as like a string for that field, we'll define it as something else. Anyways, just want to make sure I was matching this so when I change it, it'll work. Alright, so that's it. That's all we should have to do is just once it's dropped there in our master inventory, we're golden. So to test that, let's go ahead and run it. Maybe a jerry can will show up. Okay, so what do we get here? We have this, we have that, we have that. No jerry can. So let's stop it. Let's play again. And the reason I'm using this scene right here that I'm at, it's the only place I have spawn location set up right now. We're kind of testing this code. Okay, so there's the can. It did actually spawn, but it's massively huge. We need to scale it down about half of that. So So it did spawn, so it worked. Again, we're using randomly spawning items from this inventory. Let's change the master inventory scaling. It's at 0.54. Let's just make it 0.25, 0.25 all the way around. We want a uniform or linear scaling here, uniform scaling on all axes. Save our scene. It's doing its compile thing, and let's let it roll. So we're really just starting to build kind of the framework of some of this, some of the functionality we're going to need. Definitely needed a spawn system to spawn items. The next thing we need to do is develop a we're going to need to add a collider component to each of our inventory items. And so once we do that, we also need to determine, I don't know, I guess it'll be the player controller that really will have the logic in it for picking up items. So, but before we do that, I want to build we're going to build a layout that's going to represent our in-game on-screen inventory view. That would be in the player's backpack or carry-on, you know. So what we've done up to this point was to help facilitate loading items from the resources prefab master inventory folder into the game on startup and add some spawning capability. So yeah, the next part is showing if you hit I, I'm going to have it set for I for inventory. If you hit I, it will pop up the screen and show the current inventory a player has. So once we have that screen showing up, we'll start working on some functionality to do pickups and then hit I again and be able to see if that inventory shows up in the screen. So we're going to build this as we go. So if you've never done this before, you can learn as I learn. I'm actually learning this as I go. So, you know, I've ran into some hurdles, and that's why it's taking a little bit longer. Each stream doesn't necessarily, we don't accomplish a whole lot, but we do accomplish something closer to our end goal. And that's the main thing. We're making progress. Progress is success. I remember a teacher telling me that, a business teacher. It's the only way you make, that's the definition of success is progress. So progress is success. Anyway, if you got any questions, type anything out in the chat here. We're going to probably cut the stream off here in just a bit. I'll be back on tomorrow. I've got a family member I need to call. But anyways, you got any questions? I'll keep the chat open for a minute here, and I'll answer anything I can for you. Got a 60-second timer going, so if there are no questions before the 60-second timer finishes, we're going to call it a night, boys. And I just started the timer now, so it's 1 minute from now. While that's going on, I'm going to get me a drink. I'll be right back. So that'll take up my minute. If there's any questions showing up there in the chat, I'll definitely answer them. If not, I'll be closing the stream, and we'll pick up tomorrow. Alright, I'm back. And I see there's no questions in the chat, so I assume my one viewer left. And I'm sorry, but if you do watch the rest of this later, after the fact, I do apologize, Nino Station, for not responding quicker. Anyways, everyone have a good night. And I'm going to add some music to this opening and starting of the stream, as well as the closing. Have a good one.